Well, hello there folks, and welcome back to Travels with Geordie. This week we're going to get rid of this disgusting pine paneling headboard thing I've done here temporarily as part of the temporary bed mock-up 2 years ago. It's time to get rid of it. In light of all this beautiful new cabinetry here, I want consistent mahogany across this bulkhead. Let's get on with it. Hello there, and welcome to Travels with Geordie. My name is Peter, and this fine fella here is Geordie. We live together here in Victoria, British Columbia on a classic wooden motor cruiser, all the while fixing it up for some pretty major cruising someday. If that's the sort of thing you might be interested in, why don't you consider sticking around and subscribing? We'd love to have you. I should also say that if you'd like to win a Travels with Geordie t-shirt, stick around to the end of the episode and I'll show you how you can. Cheers! Right then, so if you've been following along, we built this cabinet last week and installed the beautiful stained glass window in it. Thanks again so much, Scott. But now you can see there's kind of a discrepancy in the niceness of this bulkhead. We got beautiful mahogany over there, we got beautiful mahogany over here, and we have crappy pine paneling in the middle. So it's time for that to go. Now, I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do here, and that's part of the reason. It's a mock-up. It was only meant to be sort of tidy for a while my daughters came to visit. Hot tip. My daughter's coming back to visit in 1 week, so all this has to be done and finished and back to something relatively cozy for her to have for the week of visit she's coming for. Really looking forward to that. Okay, so it really starts with demolition. I have a bit of trepidation about this, to tell you the truth, because finding a place to put all this, including this full-size residential pillow-top double mattress, when you live on the boat. I mean, it's fine. I'm going to move into the forecastle, which is where I'm going to be when Caitlin comes anyway, my daughter. But there's a lot of stuff stored under here. A lot. And there isn't a lot of extra room on the boat. So, nothing to it. Just start moving stuff around. Under the bed has been lumber storage for the better part of the last couple of years, which has been very convenient. But gotta put it somewhere else for the next little while. Okay. Okay, well, with this gone, the next part is pretty straightforward. It's pretty standard, easy demolition. And I mean easy because these were put up with my tiny little 23 gauge pin nailers, which was awfully easy to put up and awfully easy to take back down. And there we go. Alright then, so although that cheap pine paneling was definitely not ever intended to be the final surface on this bulkhead, it was the same location. If you notice, this is slightly out from the natural bulkhead on the boat, and that's because the upper helm used to run its controls down diagonally through to the bilge and back when it was a long chain drive. Anyway, all of that. And I imagined when I redid it, I would be using that same corridor, but because I'm completely rethinking the upstairs helm, more on that later, there's really no reason to have this void. So actually this bulkhead thing will come off, and we'll move back to the original marine plywood bulkhead, which of course it's in horrible shape. We are going to add paneling to it, much like we did in the wheelhouse, but you'll see. Alright, let's get this off of here. For someone who is constantly raving about how wonderful Robertson screws and bits are, I always seem to be short the drive bit for the drill for the little #1 Robertson screws, and that means I have to hand unscrew this whole bloody wall. Don't worry, you don't have to watch. Or it was a crappy old screwdriver. This way, it lives on. Oh yeah. Okay, so you can see what's going on here. The original bulkhead, and these spacers of cheap spruce strapping, and this diagonal void that would have allowed the either the cable or the chain or whatever I was going to do for a steering system to come down and back. But all of this is irrelevant now because I'm doing everything differently. Let's get these off. Oh, those come out hot. Okay, then let's have a little tour at this stage and talk about the entire situation. So, with all of that off, you can see we've exposed the original bulkhead, which, although it looks absolutely hideous, it's actually in pretty good shape. Even over here, where it's been wet several times, even sometimes almost chronically, that's not actually in very bad shape. So let's start with a little tour. This side you're all familiar with, the door, the new cabinet, etc. The bulkhead. Now down below we have the aft cabin sole, which is in, well, I was going to say terrible shape, but it's actually in remarkably good shape. It's 1/2 inch marine ply, and I would love to rip it up and replace it all and get at the bilge and clean it, inspect it. And I've never seen what's under there, but I can't get into that now. That will just be a dead end of misery, right? I can't do that. Okay, so here's an original muffler, great big cast iron thing. It does not leak. That dampness is actually from a window leak. It's there, it works, it won't be there long. You guys will be familiar with these, the recent steering cables that went in. As we work our way up, stringer, and then this is also temporary sealing. In the boat world, you call the paneling that goes inside the frames sealing, whereas you call the thing above your head the overhead. Doesn't it make sense? Anyway, we move up from there. Cabin sides, pretty gnarly shape. I don't know if you can see with the way the light's working right now, but there are so many repairs and damage in through this section here. I don't know quite what I'm going to be able to deal with there. If we look up, we have a couple of patches where the old steering gear used to come down through, lots of holes for old wires, etc. So there's lots of stuff that I need to sort of cope with. It's amazing how much, really good baguette, it's amazing how much of the future developments in this area hinge on exactly how this is designed. The upstairs helm, of course, because at one point the upstairs helm controls were going to come down through here through a void, and I've just spent half an hour upstairs pretending I'm driving the boat, moving the helm around, and now it's actually going to come through forward, so that solves that. How I'm going to deal with this corner, how I'm going to deal with a power chase, the new exhaust which is going to actually move up in there, how high the bed is going to be eventually, because it's probably going to move up just a little bit. So many things hinge on this, it's almost ridiculous. How I'm going to deal with some lighting here above the bed, some reading lighting type of thing. Anyway, I think I've settled it. So let's just get on with something, because it's not really that critical. Triple cream French brie on day old baguette. Okay, I'm in a bit of a wood shortage. You wouldn't think so with this massive piece of sapele mahogany here, but I'm running out of thin stuff. I got to order up some more stuff. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to slice some 3/8, little less than 3/8 strips off this to be 1 3/4 wide to do the work we're doing in the aft cabin. And I thought I'd show you because people seem to like the out one window, in and through and out the other window ripping technique. This is going to be a pain and make a hell of a lot of dust. You know, actually, this is such a ridiculous, massive piece of wood. I don't even know what it was for. 1 3/4 by 8 solid sapele. Let me tell you, it's heavy. I'm just going to cut it down to a reasonable size because the longest piece I need is only 56 inches. So it seemed nice to just take a few strips off and leave it for something cool someday, but I don't have anything cool to do with it that I know of. So I'm going to chunk it to 56, which will make the ripping so much easier. Okay, that was a long, hard rip, and it burnt the wood nicely. I was able to just put the power plane on it and plane it off. But look, I forgot. Well, I didn't forget. I just didn't want to put it in until I really needed it. It's time to replace my sorry old blade with this beautiful, beautiful new thin curve professional excellent blade here, which was gifted to me. Thank you ever so much. Okay, so I'll just whip this in. Okay, all right. Ooh, That's a beauty. That's a beauty. I don't know if you can see that. What a tidy, tidy, tidy cut that is. Excellent. Let's do a couple more. There we go. Okay, so I had some door skin pre-stained left over from the project on the other side of the bulkhead. So I'm just going to make the 3 panels out of that. And I've cut this one already. I didn't figure I'd take you back to the wheelhouse just to cut up a piece of plywood. So I'm just going to scribe it to the curve of the roof. Ceiling, overhead. Good enough for me. Alright, I'm going to go cut that next door. And here we go. How does it fit? It fits absolutely swimmingly. Very nice. Okay. Couple more. Fabulous. One more. Alright, so this panel isn't stained yet, so that'll be the last thing I do tonight before I run out of light. But first is to get the scribe and the notch here. First we cut the top, then we cut the notch. Okay then, so there's 2 notches here. One is here, and this one, let's do it. Absolutely perfect. Okay, so I'm going to stain that in place, because I'm also going to stain some stuff here at the same time, and call it a day. Okay. Alright, doesn't look quite the same, does it? Anyway, pretty soon I won't have a finger I can turn the phone camera off with, so good night. Okay then, let's wrap up this paneling project. The stain is pretty much dry. It's not super even. I learned something that the sunshine pouring in here earlier, you can see it's here now, caused a little differential dryness in the staining. Anyway, once it's all finished, I may have to do a little tidying up of the stain work. Anyway, so before I go any further, I want to put a replacement little piece in here. Let me zoom in on that. You can see what I'm talking about. Basically, this material here is a cover piece that covers over the joint between the sub deck, the plywood deck, some blocking that supports the cabin sides. Anyway, it was cut short because of some cabinetry that was here before, and I just need to make a little crossover connection piece, a little graving piece, a little Dutchman, whatever you want to call it, that's going to go in there. Now, the neat thing is, I have some of this wood that was cabinets that was in the forecastle, and I believe this is the same wood as this. Now, this is very light. I don't believe this is Honduran mahogany. I think it's probably Marente, but I believe it's the same wood as this, because when I sanded a little piece earlier, I checked it against it. So I'm going to cut a little piece out of here and make a little graving piece to go in there. Okay, I'm going to try this out and see how well that matches inside. I won't take you with me. I don't know if I can get this into focus at some point. If anyone here knew what kind of wood this is, I'd be very grateful to know. It is very light, like lighter than pine. Of course, it's also very dry. Alright then, so let's see. That seems to be pretty good. Okay, I'm going to call that a perfect match. Okay, so time to get all the trim pieces on, which are next door. Okay. Gonna have to put a door latch on this door sooner than later. Okay, now if you remember, I ripped a whole bunch of mahogany to make the various pieces of stripping for this, one of which I made extra thick, because when you join trim in 2 different directions, like this. You always want to make sure one piece is thicker than the other, proud of the other. If they meet flush, it just accentuates the joint. It just doesn't look good. It's just not nice. You just don't do it. So in this case, the top piece is going to be a little proud of the others, and I'm going to have to scribe it to fit into there and then flex it against the overhead. Now the trick is I've made this kind of out of a thick piece, so it's going to be a little bit hard to curve up into there, but I was able to do it on the other side, so it shouldn't be too much trouble. Let me get going on scribing it, or at least a initial easy scribe, because it's got to fit against that. Alright then, well, I fiddled with it, and I didn't think it was worth taking you next door just to show you jigsawing out a little corner and sanding off an edge. I've drilled for some screws and preloaded them, and this is going to be a bit frustrating. It's definitely going to be a piece of work to get this up and aligned and then screwed in while keeping the tension on it, because it's a pretty solid piece of wood. So what I'm going to do, that end obviously won't spring up because it's notched around this member. But this end, if I push up here, I don't know if you can see from where you are, all it does is push up on the overhead here. It doesn't have support right there. So what I'm going to do is this is actually perfectly lined up. So I'm going to put this screw in right here and let this act as a hinge. I hope this is a good idea. Now, as I've said before, I have to be able to make sure the panels can come down for maintenance and probably replacement, because I may do something completely different with the overheads. So this has to sit up against it, but it doesn't have to be rock solid against it, because there's another trim piece that sort of simulates these side ones with the light. It may even have lights. I'm not sure yet what's going on. So now, the big push. So let's see if I can get this to go up in the right spot and then put a couple of screws in. That looks good, right? There! Transfer my push to here. Okay, now on with some pretty straightforward stuff. Basically the vertical trim piece. The first one is super easy because it's square at the top, because this is the apex of the curve. So all this does is get marked where to cut it at the bottom. I'll be right back. Alrighty, check that for fit, although there's really nothing to check for this particular one. So this one gets put aside to be sanded and eased. Next one. Okay, this one is the first one that has a bit of a curve, and I played with it a bit already to see how it would look. And all I'm doing with this one, I think I'll actually cut it to length first, just to make life a little easier. And I'll be right back. Okay, you guys don't mind me not taking you back and forth up there to cut pieces of wood, do you? It's pretty mundane stuff. Okay, sanding block. So all I'm doing here, especially with this one, that one I might start with a bit of a cut. I'm just taking the sanding block and easing the edge of this a little bit. Not exactly easing, but just shaping it a little bit. Oop, trying not to bash too much here. So, it's a standard problem, small space, and this is not a small space really in terms of a boat, but swinging around pieces of wood can get you into trouble. See how that looks. Pretty good. Okay, I'm going to say that is perfect. So it goes aside to be sanded and eased. So next one, first let's do a rough trim, so that I don't have to sand too much off, because it's pretty hard wood. So if I put it here and here, and I scribe basically that. Alright, let's see about this one. Enough for me. Okay, that's that one ready. And then this one is going to need to be scribed around this bit of the deck that's sticking out. Okay, now some parts of this scribe have to be perfect and some parts don't. Okay, now I realize there's very little chance that you can actually see anything here because it's very dark and that's very bright. I've got a big light on here and another big light on over there, but I don't think it can cope with it. Okay, what I have to do here is remove an ugly chunk of previous repair. There's a great big spline put in here. You can hardly call it a spline. It's that wide. It goes right to the outside. It is more of a graving piece. But it is proud here by 3/16 of an inch, so I can't get the stuff to sit in there, and the piece that's going to go here sitting there. So okay, I'm just glad I didn't hit a fastener. Close enough for me. Perfect. So that goes and gets sanded up. Now there's another section. If I tilt you down, perhaps you'll be able to see, and that's in here under the deck. Now I have another piece of plywood to go in there and another piece of trim that will deal with that. But again, this is semi-temporary, so it has to be put on in a way that this could be removed, but relatively tidy in the meantime. Pretty straightforward, really. Let's see. Perfect. Let's get some plugs, some bungs in these holes up here, because I want to try and get some oil on here tonight. Now, I'm not going to glue these because, in my opinion, in interior work where you're putting a varnish on anyway, they'll be sealed in well enough. There's no reason to glue them. These are tapered plugs, so once they get a little bit of a tap, they are in there pretty much for good. But, as I keep saying, a lot of the cabinetry on the boat is semi-temporary. I don't even know if I mean temporary, but I want it to be removable without too much fuss. Partly because I can't get that one on there, because this is not real marine wood, and as a result, it may be possible that if I feel ambitious sometime in the distant future, I may replace it with something real. In the meantime, it'll look pretty nice. I don't know what's going on there. There we go. I don't know what was wrong before. Okay, cut them off. Very nice. Okay, let's see about a piece for here. It's going to take a couple of little scribes. Okay then, I've been back and forth a few times, giving us a little bit of a trim. Oh yeah. Perfect. Ease this edge, give it a little sanding, and get that on. Okay, nice to ease edge on it. And in it goes. I know a lot of people glue absolutely everything when they put a boat together. And some people even use thickened epoxy for absolutely everything. And one of the arguments is so that it won't squeak in the future. Well, maybe this boat will squeak in the future. Creak, whatever. It's kind of like an old house where the stairs squeak a bit. I don't actually mind that. I know it drives some people nuts. But more important to me is that it doesn't become a disaster if you need to take it apart again someday for repair or modification or whatever. So I glue things that need to be strong, not things that don't. And this does not need to be strong. Alright then, we're back to this thing. Remember this thing that we stained? So it's a little patch to go in here. Now I first cut it to fit between here and the bulkhead, so it needs to be roughly a 1/4 inch shorter, but I can easily do that now. And we'll slip that in. Aha! Okay then, let's see if this fits at all. Very nice, very nice, very nice. Okay, what can we do down here? So actually I found a full-size piece of 3/8 mahogany that's effectively an offcut, so I'm just going to make the whole thing solid mahogany. So we're in the middle of a couple of scribes. I think there's one more to do here, and that's going to be a pretty good fit. Nice! Alright folks, the battery died on the light, so I had to carry on without you for a little while. Actually, I decided I preferred the look of it in a panel, so after I'd scribed it all to fit, I just trimmed it back down so it became a trim piece showing a little bit of the panel. Now, another little thing. Let me take you up up, 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 up. In fact, I can zoom you right in, hoping that you can see what's going on up in that corner. Well, yes, there's a little short bit of this lighting strip missing because, of course, there used to be a bulkhead here, an extra bulkhead that stuck out. So I've had to make a little graving piece, and I've had to put a little backup piece inside, and I think this is all now trimmed nicely to fit. And if I just put that right there, like that, actually hardly needs a fastener, but of course we'll put a couple in just to be secure. Excellent. Okay. Well, now we're pretty close to putting some oil on this. Okay, folks, it is fast running out of daytime. It is late November in this part of the world. I know you Australians are laughing at me, but I'm running out of light at what, 4:30 in the afternoon. So I'm going to throw some of my favorite tung oil on here, which will be the first coat that goes on any finish. And we'll see what it looks like tomorrow. Let's see what this looks like with a little oil. So far, I'm really thrilled with the way this has gone. And well, I think that's it for today, folks, because the battery has died again on the light. Plus, I'm sure you've seen plenty. See ya. Well, good morning, folks. I'm just loving this. I think it turned out so well. The veneers on this panel have some imperfections in them. I'm just not going to worry about it. On the whole, it looks fantastic. It's uniform. If in the distant future I improve it somewhat, I have the possibility to do that. So let's wrap this up, put the bed back together, and get this edited and off to you. While I'm at that, I want to thank Daniel Hellrung. Tracked him down. He's the fellow who gifted me these LED lights off the Amazon wishlist. Thanks so much, Daniel. Let's get to it. All right. Absolutely thrilled. Looks so much cozier. Just love it. Well, hello there and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. Extra special episode this week because we're going international. Yes, we are. This is Eidinger Dunkel, a fine German beverage. My absolute favorite international beer after, of course, Guinness. Introduced to me by my fine German friend Christoph, and what's most interesting about this is the way you pour it, or at least the way he says you pour it. And we've been doing this in bars and restaurants all over the East Coast and raising a few eyebrows, and good gosh, I hope it works today. This is a bit insane. You have to get it down in under the water, under the beer, and lift it slowly, and if you lift it at just the right amount, you get... Actually, this one is going remarkably well considering I've had some terrible accidents doing this in the past. And then at a magic point, you simply pull it out and you've poured yourself the perfect Eidinger Dunkel. How about that? I have messed that up worse than that in the past. So, cheers. If you like a dark, full-bodied beer, but not strong, just warm and nutty, and you don't know Eidinger Dunkel, run, don't walk, to your local purveyor and find yourself a bottle of this. It is absolutely divine. Oh, fantastic. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Maurizio Hublitz, this week's newest patron. Thanks so much, and I hope I pronounced that correctly, Maurizio, because he's a friend of mine and I've never actually pronounced his last name before. Thanks again, Maurizio. Cheers. Okay. So we need a word of the week, don't we? How about anchor? It just came to me. If you'd like to win a Travels with Geordie t-shirt, just leave a comment down below with the word anchor in it, and I'll pick at random from the first 24 hours worth of comments, and if I pick you, you might get yourself a Travels with Geordie t-shirt. Thanks again, cheers, see you next week.